Hey everyone! Welcome to The Young and the Restless. I'm Jane, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Young and the Restless, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. Summer is pressured by Chance to confess her affections for Kyle. At the jazz lounge, Audra walked up to Victor, who said she was exactly on time. She emphasized that she had never truly consented to meet with him. Victor Newman, Audra reasoned, was always 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Victor told Audra that he had ordered her favorite margarita when a waiter brought drinks. By his calculation, he was barely 9 steps ahead of her, he claimed. Audra demanded to know what choices Victor had for her future. Victor inquired as to whether she was still upset with Kyle having stabbed her in the back. Audra pointed out that she had been fired by Victor. Victor insisted that she was still troubled by Kyle's betrayal of her. He asked if she had ever thought about exacting revenge on Kyle. Audra wondered what she would receive in return. Victor proposed that they make an agreement. Audra wondered if Victor had been impressed with her work at Newman Media, but she thought that Victor's arrangement required eliminating Kyle. Victor said that Nikki and he had been greatly impressed and that he was prepared to give Audra a portion of his business to manage. Audra guessed that in exchange, she would have to let Kyle down. Victor urged her to show how simple it would be to entice Kyle to have another affair with her. Audra sighed, indicating her lack of interest. Victor explained that he only wanted her to assist in revealing Kyle's true self, not to woo him. Victor clarified that he didn't enjoy Kyle's relationship with Claire. Given how Victor had treated her at Glissade, Audra wondered why she should have faith in him. Victor declared that nothing she could have done at Glissade could compare to what he was offering. They were together when Nate walked into the club. Victor was questioned by Nate for warning Lily not to put her trust in Damien. Victor maintained his amiable warning to exercise caution with Damien and Dumas. Nate expressed amazement to see Audra drinking with Victor considering the way he had treated her and yelled that he could decide for himself who he could trust. Victor declared that Audra might also choose whom to believe, and he began to leave. Audra agreed to think about what they had discussed and called after him. Nate inquired as to the nature of the conversation after Victor had departed. Summer met Phyllis in the entrance of the athletic club. Chance wanted to speak with them regarding some information he had discovered about the kidnapper, so Phyllis said she was going to Sharon's house. Summer hoped that Phyllis would soon be able to move on from the experience. Phyllis expected to have to keep an eye on things until they happened. Phyllis acknowledged that the psychological effects of the mind games had affected her, but she also acknowledged that her nightmares made her angry because she had experienced worse things in reality. Phyllis struggled with the fact that she didn't know who had kidnapped her, pointing out that the person might have been there at the time, observing her. Phyllis said that she couldn't get the voices out of her head. Summer suggested that the offender was only as strong as Phyllis allowed them to be. Phyllis thought she would continue to feel that way until the kidnapper was apprehended. Sharon stopped herself from drinking from a water bottle at the cottage and remembered giving Phyllis the remedy for the poison she had consumed at Havenhurst. When Nick got there, he saw that Sharon had packed her luggage. She was excited about visiting Noah in London. Since he had already prepared a bag and made arrangements for the Newman jet to transport them abroad, Nick pondered whether there was space for one more. Sharon gave him an enthusiastic hug. Sharon inquired as to why Nick had altered his mind. Nick pictured Noah feeling powerless in Europe when Sharon was abducted, and he eagerly anticipated spending a few days with his son. Disgusted, Sharon chirped that she was glad Nick would be joining her for a portion of the journey. Chance will be dropping by shortly with an update regarding the kidnapper, Sharon said. When Phyllis showed up, she pondered whether Chance had called Nick as well. Sharon revealed that Nick would be traveling to London to see Noah with her and Faith. Phyllis forced a grin and declared her excitement for them. Sharon suggested that Phyllis take a family trip with Daniel and Summer in order to follow suit. Phyllis claimed she was too preoccupied with starting a new business with Billy. Nick asked Phyllis whether she was all right. Phyllis declared that she didn't want the incident to hinder her further than it had already done. When Chance showed up, he told them he had information regarding the kidnapper. Chance revealed that although he had not yet been given a name, he had located a Parisian mental health facility where the money for the remote control that had set off the gas had been paid. He asked Phyllis and Sharon if that meant anything. Alan had made arrangements for Ashley to receive treatment at a clinic outside of Paris, Sharon mentioned. Nick saw that Chance appeared to respond when Alan's name was said, but Chance would not elaborate. Phyllis pleaded for additional information. Although Chance acknowledged that he was unsure of any connection to Alan or Ashley, it's possible that a new piece of information has emerged. According to Chance, he was examining more purchases made using the same account. Phyllis raged that she believed the abductor was clever enough to avoid the police and that she lived in continual worry that they would be returned. Chance advised Phyllis not to draw hasty conclusions, but she did wonder whether Alan might have been involved. Sharon was leaving town, but Phyllis was still there, terrified that she might be killed or kidnapped. Chance implored them to trust him, saying he was on the verge of solving the problem. Since she hadn't even heard of Alan until a few weeks prior, Phyllis wondered how he could have been involved in the kidnapping after Chance left. Phyllis wondered if Ashley had planned the kidnapping after mentioning her history of mental illness and her stay at the facility in Paris. After her own collapse, Sharon didn't think Ashley would torment them. Sharon recalled talking to Tracy, who appeared to be somewhat distressed by the specifics of the kidnapping. Sharon wasn't certain anymore, but Nick assumed Tracy had been attempting to be helpful. Sharon praised Alan for his assistance in hypnotizing her. Phyllis questioned whether Sharon had discussed their past with Alan, but Sharon claimed that they had only discussed her blackouts. Nick pointed to Chance's response when Alan's name was brought up, but Phyllis lamented that they didn't know anything more than they had previously. Nick thought Chance had doubts about Alan. Phyllis hinted that Sharon and Nick might want to reconsider their trip. Claire begged Kyle to tell her more about his and Jack's work at Society. Kyle dismissed it as routine business, but Claire saw that he had earlier seemed positive about it. According to Claire, Kyle had been enthusiastic and pleased of his work, but he had shut down when Victor entered. She pondered whether her grandfather had anything to do with the issue Kyle and Jack had resolved. Claire mentioned how Victor had been needled earlier by Kyle. Every time they saw each other, Victor took a shot at him, Kyle thought, so he had just returned the favor. Kyle guessed that Claire was thinking about Victor because she was afraid her grandfather would never approve of their relationship and he believed they needed to distance themselves from Victor so they wouldn't be killed in the conflict between Victor and the Abbotts. Until she received a concrete response regarding the project Kyle and Jack had been working on, Claire would not leave the table. Though he wasn't certain who might be responsible, Kyle told Claire that some employee had been acting strangely and that he believed it might be a part of a scheme to conduct corporate espionage. Kyle expressed worry that Claire thought Victor was always involved in incidents. Claire agreed to stop making assumptions, while Kyle pledged to stop needling Victor. She may have overreacted, Claire admitted. Kyle recommended that they forget about Victor and work and head to the jazz club for a late-night drink. The couple canoodled while Summer looked on. As Kyle and Claire left, Summer greeted them. Claire added that they had both been worried, and Kyle mentioned that he had been intending to call to ask about Phyllis. Summer said that Phyllis had benefited from spending time with Harrison. Summer raved about a photo Harrison had drawn of her for his report, and she reminded Kyle of a parent event they had at Harrison's school that week. It was really flattering when Claire said she had seen Harrison working on it. Kyle looked lovingly at Claire and thought that the boy made everyone feel better. Summer pretended to laugh while Kyle and Claire reminisced about a magic act Harrison had done for them. As Kyle and Claire joyfully walked away together, Summer watched with despair. Chance inquired about Summer's well-being after observing her response. Due to fresh information in the abduction case, Chance apologized for being late. He grumbled that Phyllis didn't seem to get that he couldn't make all of his assumptions. Summer argued that in order to begin reconstructing her life, her mother needed closure. Chance expressed sympathy but warned that clinging to bad emotions was unhealthy because it gave the impression that one was running in place. Summer felt that they had stopped discussing her mother. Chance believed that since Summer was obviously envious that Kyle had gone on with Claire, they could no longer skirt her feelings for him. Chance begged her to tell him, if not to herself, then at least to herself. Summer blurted out that she found Kyle and Claire's relationship unbearable. Summer complained that whenever she saw Claire sulking over Kyle, she wanted to scream. Her family also acted as though Claire was walking on water. Summer bemoaned the fact that she and Kyle had known each other since childhood and were meant to be together forever. Summer acknowledged that she couldn't continue to act as though she was over losing Kyle, especially to someone like Claire. Chance concurred that neither of them had been treated fairly.